Welcome.
Mike.
I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like spring's here. And I probably jinxed it. Before Marilyn sets the stage about what we'll be doing tonight, just want to point out a few of the things that are coming up. We have one more talk, and that was originally scheduled for the end of May, but the speaker couldn't make the date, so as I announced last time, it's going to be on June 4th. And the talk will be titled Captain John Mason, Still Controversial 30 Years After the Statue Left Mystic. And that'll be done by, that talk will be given by Dr. David Nomek. This weekend, it's forecast to rain, but on paper at least, we're going to be doing, Marilyn will be leading a walking tour of the Lower Mystic Cemetery, where these two gentlemen, among others, are buried. And that's going to be at 10 o'clock on Saturday. Now, there's no rain date, so if it does rain, we're going to reschedule it for September. We'll try to get the word out. There'll probably be, a last-minute thing looking at the forecast on Friday, but we don't want to do it in the rain. So, how many people do we? Where's Betsy?
29.
How many people so far?
29.
Okay, that's good. All right, good. Two other events that are coming up. By the way, the talk in June is our traditional annual meeting. So we'll have a very brief President's and Treasurer's report, just to keep you, summarize what we've been doing for the past year. We'll also be electing this gentleman over here. Of course, you have to vote for him. He's up for it.
I guess not.
Carmen DeStefano is joining our board, wants to join our board. And Nancy Potter, who is actually would be embarking on her third tour of duty, if you will, as a member of the board, will be up for re-election. So we'll be doing that at the annual meeting as well. On June 7th, we're going to do again what Nancy Potter and her husband Larry did last year. June 7th is Connecticut Trails Day. So we're going to take a hike in Pequot Woods like we did last year. And we'll get the word out on that. I do believe you have to register. But same hike as last year. And the week after that, we'll have our traditional annual open house, coincident with the Connecticut Open House Day, and that'll be June 14th. So even though we only got one more talk, we do have several other activities that we hope to see you at. And with that, Marilyn. Oh, I'm sorry.
I try to avoid cemeteries. But I'm interested in the Stewart. Could you give the street address or GPS address?
What is the number?
389.
Yeah, it's Route 1, and if you go out of Mystic up past that Baptist Hill, up over the top, and then just when you come down the other side, the cemetery's on the right.
Yep.
It's just before you get to
Yeah.
Now I went to road
River Police.
I'm pretty sure if you Google it or look at it in the maps, it will show
Just
up.
follow the one out of Mystic, you'll see the cemetery.
Right behind the cemetery.
Oh, down
there's
the
a
bottom
horse
of the hill.
barn.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
If you need any more guidance, just give our office a call.
I think it's 389. on one of the road.
Okay, Marilyn.
I want to make sure everybody can hear me because I'm not mic'd up like I'm usually. Okay, so we're presenting this program tonight. We've done the letters of Horatio Nelson Fish Jr. a couple of other times. We did it first in 1979, and the last time we did them was in 2002. And this month marks the 160th anniversary of the end of the Civil War. So we thought it would be a good time to bring them out again. And we recently, in the last couple of years, received letters of Jed Randall. And so I've taken excerpts from Jed's letters and from Horatio's. And that's what the program is going to be tonight. And Steve will be reading Jed Randall's letters, and Chuck will be reading Horatio's. So with that, we'll get started. Mystic sent 2 companies of soldiers to fight in the Civil War, the 21st Regiment Company C and the 26th Regiment Company K Connecticut Infantry. The 21st Regiment fought with the Army of the Potomac in Virginia, and the 26th Regiment was with the Army of the Gulf and fought in the siege of Port Hudson, Louisiana. Their job was to take control of the Mississippi River away from the Confederates. Tonight, we will hear excerpts from letters written by two young men who fought with these regiments. Jedediah Randall was the captain in charge of Company K, and Horatio Nelson Fish Jr. was an enlisted man in Company C. And we've put photos up here so you have something to look at while we're reading. And this is Horatio here on the left,
How young they are.
and then this is Jed here. And I wanted Betsy to put this whole thing out because this is Simeon Fish, and Simeon is mentioned in Jed's letters. And this young man here is Orville Tift, and two of Orville Tift's letters were also among the letters we got from with the Jed collection. So now you know who the players are. Okay, the young men from Mystic who enlisted in these two regiments all grew up together. They went to school and church together, they played together, their fathers did business together, and now they were going off to war together, where they would fight side by side and see some of their childhood friends die right in front of them. Jedediah Randall was born in Mystic on September 13, 1835, to Isaac and Adelia Minor Randall. He was the third of 8 children and the first boy. His father was a prosperous businessman who made money in the whaling industry and later as owner of the Reliance Machine Company on Water Street, which produced cotton gins. Jed was born in the family homestead on Randall's Wharf on the Mystic River, on the site where the former trolley barn is today. In 1850, his father, Isaac Randall, built the mansion at 15 Elm Street, which later became the summer home of Captain Elihu Spicer Jr., who gave us the Mystic and Noack Library. Jed was 15 years old when the family moved into that house. At age 27, Jed enlisted in the U.S. Army to fight in the Civil War. At the time, he was working with his father in his various businesses. He entered the Army with a commission as a captain and as commander of Company K. He believed fervently in the Union cause to preserve the country and to end slavery, and he was very proud to be in command of the local Groton company of men who went south to fight. Jed's letters indicate that he and his father had had long discussions about his enlistment. Jed told his father he wanted to do his part and not years later have to tell his children and grandchildren that he didn't heed the call. He also assured his father that Company K would be a 9-month regiment, and he would be home after serving that amount of time. Company K was sent home after the Battle of Port Hudson and was in service for just 10 months. But neither of the two young men whose letters we'll hear tonight survived the war. Jed died in a Union hospital in Baton Rouge County, Louisiana, from wounds he suffered at Port Hudson on May 13, 1863. His wounds were survivable, but he contracted a fever in the hospital and died 13 days after he was wounded. Horatio was wounded in the arm and shoulder at the Second Battle of Petersburg, Virginia, on July 18, 1864. He was taken to Hampton Hospital, where he appeared to be recovering, but he took a turn for the worse and died on August 21, 1864. We'll begin with Jed's letters, which start when his company was still encamped at Norwich, Connecticut.
Camp Russell, Norwich, Connecticut, September 14, 1862. Dear Father, I'm obliged to remain here until next Friday at least, and perhaps longer before I shall think it proper to leave on a furlough. Things are working so far all right, and if I succeed this week coming in what I intend, you will not be ashamed of me. That is, I intend first to get the quarters of my men as warm and comfortable as possible, that no cases of rheumatism may occur. Colds can hardly be avoided, but considering the chilly weather and open cracks in our barracks, we're all in good health. I'm really determined about properly directing a company in this good cause, and by efficiently doing so, am of some account in whipping the rebellion. While I do so, I hope you can spare me for a short 9 months by not assuming too many new cares and gradually doing away with the old ones. The men all know I order them with care and judgment, and so are orderly, and I have no fault to find. Herbert Maxim is my orderly. If I can work him in permanently by the voice of the company, he is my man, and he is a dear good fellow, apt and orderly as can be. It may be some time before we leave, 9 companies are represented here. We don't know intentions of those in power. Don't come here until I have had some drilling done, for I want to show you what can be done. Tomorrow the men come back and drill commences in earnest. I long for it and feel no fear of results. Yours affectionately, Jed Randall. Saturday morning, October 4th, 1862. Dear Father, I have but a few minutes to write 3 letters and must be brief. I am well, notwithstanding the damp weather. The weather is a severe trial of patience. It can be endured at home where all is so comfortable and agreeable, but here in camp it makes all things wet in and out of the tent and barracks. It's mud on all sides, and then the men cannot drill when it rains, and the consequence is that they get very uneasy. I never was in better health, and but for the idea of your comparative loneliness and the extra care of business you have to endure in my absence, I should be in good spirits. But that lays like a weight and mars the satisfaction I should take in doing what seems duty after all. I never enlisted to have a pleasant time, and shall not be disappointed or disagreeable. I get on finely with my men. No one rebels, and if they did, I have some satisfaction in feeling competent to master them. My men seem to trust much in my honor, and I hope that it will have no occasion to do otherwise. I find it well and best for me not to think too much about any other matters than my present business. I can get absorbed in drill and discipline and keep so busy from morning to night that I don't get to feeling sad. It's a school I never was in before. In haste, your affectionate son, Jed Randall. Camp Russell, Norwich, Connecticut, October 14th, 1862. My dear Father, I am more and more anxious to leave Norwich, for it is full of sources of trouble to our regiment. Men will get drunk and must have furloughs. There is, however, no trouble today, and all goes well. Do not get perplexed, Father, about our business. The winter and spring will soon slip away, and with its close we will hope to see brighter days. How much we will then enjoy if God wills it. Your affectionate son, Jed Randall. Camp Russell, November 1st, 1862. Dear Father and Mother, I have thought much about you all this week, and if I do not often write you, it is because my time is so much occupied, not that I am unmindful of you. I know you would like to have me come home if I can leave, but my duties here are of a kind which I cannot delegate to others without permanent loss of ground. I get along well here with drilling my company, and managed to hold my own in regimental drill. Yesterday I commanded 2 companies, being the 4th Division of the regiment. All goes well with me. My health was never better. I wish I could feel easy about you, Father, but the thought of you and your cares is ever present. A captain's position is deferred to and respected so long as he doesn't disgrace himself. It's my first wish now not to disgrace myself or my name. We are all invited to a game of supper last night at the Apollo, given by one quartermaster and Captain Huntoon to all the commissioned officers of the 26th Regiment. Captain Gallup and Lieutenant Fish and I had concluded not to go to the Apollo Saloon, which is a drinking saloon, but finally did so, and the whole passed off very creditably and pleasantly, and we stand in better grace with these men than we should have otherwise. Not a cup of liquor was drunk that I saw, and almost the whole of the officers' field and line were there. Simeon and I tried our pistols a while yesterday and made some respectable shots. We're going to perfect ourselves all we can. Our regiment has no idea yet when it will be ordered away, and we get tired of so much delay. It seems probable that we shall go to New York and rendezvous for the Banks expedition off the coast of Texas or somewhere south. To stay here much longer will be bad policy for the men are too near home. Yours truly and affectionately, Jedediah Randall. Camp Buckingham, Centerville, Long Island, November 16, 1862. My dear parents, there was a great crowd at Norwich to witness our leaving, and as the Commodore left the wharf with her decks crowded with soldiers waving handkerchiefs to a large crowd of friends on shore, it was a scene to remember. I had stationed my flag bearer on the very upper deck, well aft, and as we steamed down the river, we waved our flag back and forth with much gusto, so the name of Groton was prominent to all. It was, a fine day, and we had a quiet trip considering the crowd of men. The officers had staterooms as usual, while the men quartered on floors and anywhere. My men had the gents' cabin forward and rested well. One man was drunk and kicked in a lot of cut glass window lights. He was a Groton banker, usually a good orderly man, but then out of his senses. I had him handcuffed to a stanchion behind him and sobered him well. It was a good example. On the way down, some got too much drink down and had to go to bed in consequence. On the whole, though, we got along well and made a very orderly appearance the next morning at Williamsburg. Here the people treated us to an abundance of hot coffee, tea, bread, and meat, and little girls ran about among the men with apples and sandwiches. We marched about 8 miles to this camp. We're on the Long Island race course near the southern coast of the island, apparently. The ground is a great level plain enclosed by a race course 1 mile in circumference and bounded by a high fence some 15 feet high, grooved and tongued staff so men cannot readily climb over it. At the big entrance gate, the guards stand with loaded muskets and orders to stop at any hazard those who would run by. A strong guard is all around the place, and even commissioned officers cannot go out now without leave. On one side of the race course is a great high structure with seats for spectators for horse race, and from the upper seats you can get a good view outside camp for miles. On one side you see an inlet from the ocean, and the land is dotted with farmhouses with clumps of trees and scattering poplars. Dutch cottages are numerous, and they are real old-fashioned kind. We passed a camp about a mile from here, where there are several regiments encamped, and they're probably to go with us on the Banks expedition. Where we are to go or when, I have no idea. Our men all have tents, and from my tent door I look right down a little street with 4 tents on each side, occupied by my men. One tent is called Happy Family Number 2, and if you look in, you'll find the men laying snug as cattle in a nest of clean straw. Each tent holds 10 to 12 men. There is in our camp now a force of about 2,500 men, and it will be increased soon, I expect. Before leaving Camp Russell Norwich, I saw the governor, who gave me a goodbye and his photograph in exchange for my own, and expressed most perfect confidence in me personally, which I hope to sustain. I must close now. Yours very affectionately, Jedediah Randall. P.S. If Mother will keep my letters somewhere, say in a drawer in my room, I'll try to write somewhat fully and regularly, so I can, if I wish, make a journal of my whole trip out of them. Camp Buckingham, Long Island, November 23rd, 1862. My dear sister, we expect to have orders to leave the coming week. We go on the steamer Empire City. The time of leaving is, of course, not known. I am taking physic to get my stomach all right for a sea voyage. Write me soon. Yours affectionately, Jed Randall. Camp Buckingham, Long Island, Monday morning, November 24th, 1862. My dear parents, anyone needs to try life in camp with its rougher experiences to rightly appreciate the comfort and luxury of a carpeted and furnished home surrounded by kind friends. Instead of a hard-finished ceiling over my head, I now have a few swaths of canvas only, and my floor is a good big barn door that I got from a neighboring farmer. Other things compare. But it is all not only endurable, but pleasant if I can forget the idea that Father is overburdened on account of my being away. But then I often think perhaps I am not wrong in going to the war, and although the cares thrown on Father are increased, it is not perhaps my sin, but the necessary evil consequence of a terrible war. Goodbye for today, your affectionate son, Jedediah Randall. Camp Buckingham, Long Island, November 27th, 1862. Friday morning. Dear Father and Mother, we are over Thanksgiving, the first many of us have ever spent away from our dear friends. The men wanted to go home, but the edict was peremptory, and like good soldiers, not a man attempted to run guard. About 3 p.m. yesterday, after stomachs began to crave food, the turkeys came into camp. Such a lot of them, all cooked and browned as finely as if on each one, singly, some good New England mother had expended her skill. We had one to each tent through the whole camp of 5 Connecticut regiments. That is, we had over 500 turkeys. 2 fell to our tent. one so large that we despair of ever making a much impression on it, and Orville, Tift, has one from home. Then there were cranberries and apple pies and pumpkin pies, tarts, etc. And on the whole, it was done up royally by the Sons of Connecticut in New York. On board the steamer Empire City, New York, Friday, December 5th, 1862. My dear sister, I have only time to write you all a word to say I am well and leave here in fair spirits and a hopeful state of mind. I shall, I expect, be very seasick, but I have a good stateroom and can survive it, I think. My stateroom has 3 berths in it, which, with my 2 lieutenants and Herbert, Maxim, and Orville Tift, fill. I have 1 bunk to myself. My men are all closely packed in bunks between decks. It pains me to see such a contrast between their quarters and my own with its nice furnishings, but of course we think much we don't say here, and they all seem to have slept well last night. I long to see you all so much, but I am still strong in the consciousness that I'm doing right. I love to think of you all so quietly at home. Enjoy it all you can, and do not be anxious about me. I shall write you all often. God bless you all. Your affectionate brother, Jedediah Randall. Steamer Empire City, Tuesday, December 16th, 1862. My dear parents, we're now anchored off New Orleans. We have been passing by a long succession of sugar plantations. The sugar cane was being cut and the sugar mills were in full operation. The Negroes came from nearly every plantation on the route, and as they saw us pass, would stand on the banks and cheer and swing their arms wildly. No mistake, but they were wild with delight, and the sight of these loaded steamers must speak as loudly to master as to slave.
Before he enlisted, Jed worked with his father in the family's business, Reliance Machine Company, which was in the brick building on Water Street where Margarita's was. The company supplied engines and parts for many of the ships built in Mystic, and a number of those ships played pivotal roles in the war. The Mystic-built gunboat Varuna participated in the nighttime run up the Mississippi River to seize New Orleans on April 24, 1862. The Varuna was immortalized in a popular poem of the day for sinking 4 Confederate ships before being struck by cannon fire below the waterline and sinking to the bottom of the river, with their guns still firing and her flag still waving defiantly. The Reliance Machine Company supplied the boilers and engine for Varuna, which was built at the Mallory shipyard. Jed wrote the following to his father after he sailed past where the battle took place.
We passed Forts Jackson and Phillips, where the engagement was, and we saw the wreck of the Varuna. She lays with her masts sticking up above the water and her bow and half of deck exposed to view. I little thought that I should ever see her boilers again, but the steam chimneys stuck up a foot or 2 in sight, and I recognized them as old acquaintances. I would have liked a rivet from it for a relic. A flat raft was hitched to her, which had her smokestack on it, with a hole square through it where a shot had passed through it. Our regiment is all well and in glorious good spirits, and I'm sure as far as my men and myself go, we're ready for anything, and don't mean to shirk business. I never was in such a happy state of mind as these days, anxious though they are. If anything unfortunate happens to me, if it is mine to fall, may I not say it? I beg you, my dear, dear parents, to remember that I have a hope in my Savior, now that I think beyond a doubt, and there is another world where we may meet. Touching. If not here, and to be separated no more. Your affectionate son, Jedediah Randall. Fort Parapet, near Carrollton, 8 miles above New Orleans. December 19th, 1862. My dear parents, we landed from steamer yesterday afternoon. We are finally accommodating 60 tents, and an Indiana regiment and Wisconsin regiment have just been removed further up the river. We had only to ask, and the officers gave away chairs, tables, floors, etc. They all seemed to feel pretty much hearty fellowship with the New England regiments. This camp was laid out and extensive fortifications built here by the rebels who evacuated them without a fight. The works are very extensive and contain heavy guns. The name it now bears was given by the rebels. The Negroes are plenty and so are horses. The white men are all off in the rebel army. The fine plantations are deserted here, and the colonel of a Wisconsin regiment occupies a fine house nearby, surrounded with beautiful green trees and gray roses. The soldiers roam unmolested among orange trees and rose beds. No one challenges. Negro women with their inevitable gay turbans hang about the places and look queerly at the swarming northern people as the boys climb up and break off loaded orange boughs and commit similar depredations. Our hospital department has squatted itself in a once rich planter's house, standing amidst fine shrubbery of banana trees with their long flaunting leaves, of magnolia, orange, oleander, the biggest I ever saw, roses, etc. And Dr. Woodward and Finney, our surgeons, reign supreme in spacious but mostly empty rooms and look out through great high windows on broad verandas where heretofore Secesh had smoked his pipe and chuckled over the impregnable defenses close by. If you were here, you would feel easy about me, and I hope you will not be anxious at all. A gunship lays off here commanding everything. The forts are strong, and their guns can give an awful raking crossfire on anything coming past on the river. Yours with much love, Jed Randall.
And here's a letter from Jed Randall to his father concerning the status of the war and the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Lincoln on January 1st, 1863.
January 25th, 1863. In venturing to take a different view of the matter, I run a risk of being found uninformed by you who get your regular New York papers. But I do think much is being done. The cause of right rolls on, slow but sure. Here in Louisiana, among the hundreds and thousands of the Negroes we see, I find none who have any idea of ever being slaves anymore. In any event, they cannot be held again by compulsion, for they are drinking too deeply of the freedom and like it too well. The Mississippi will be opened. When it is done, the Confederacy have lost one of the two great claims they have to foreign notice or respect. If Richmond cannot be taken any other way, it can be starved out. It is for the fathers and mothers and children of these days to suffer the privations and self-denial which only will give life to our government hereafter. We might have had and could now have a very easy time of it, and every one of us be quietly at home by letting these rebels have their own way about everything. As it is and is to be, we shall whip them. You think probably that you get enough of this talk from the newspapers. I cannot help feeling that it will end all right, and that we will all be home again together soon, and happier for having made no reservation of ourselves in the great cause.
That was Jed's final letter. He was wounded very early in the battle for Port Hudson. His fellow soldier and good friend Orville Tift wrote home to tell Jed's father.
United States General Hospital, Baton Rouge, May 30th, 1863. Mr. Isaac Randall, dear sir, Jedediah is here at the hospital, wounded but not at all dangerous. The ball passed through his left leg and lodged in his right, making a flesh wound. I have been with him since the battle. We arrived here at the hospital yesterday. He has a fine room and is having the best of care. I shall stay here and nurse him, and you will not feel at all anxious about him, as he will be about again in a short time. The battle was fought on Wednesday. Jedediah was wounded in the early part of the engagement. It was a terrible fight. No one was killed in our company, but some were wounded as follows: Charles Niles near the shoulder, Warren Burnett in the leg, John Watson, leg, A. Stafford, wrist, Ed York, arm, Ezra Roth, arm, Thomas Carroll, finger, W.P. Latham, side. These are all that I've seen or heard of. I left the field soon after the fight, and there be maybe one or two that I've not mentioned. The loss in the battle was quite heavy. General Sherman, General Dow, Colonel Kingsley, all wounded. Colonel Cowles, killed. We'll write more particulars soon. Yours truly, William Orville Tift. P.S. Tell my father I'm all right and we'll write him tomorrow. I've just given Jedediah a nice supper of milk toast, dry toast, applesauce, tea, etc., which he ate with quite a relish.
And now an extract from a letter received by Mr. Amos Tift from Orville on June 1st, 1863.
Jedediah was wounded in the early part of the engagement. The ball struck his left leg below the knee, passing through, not touching the bone, and lodging in the right leg. The left leg is getting along nicely, and the other, though worse, the doctor says will come out all right. I've written to his family.
And enclosed in Orville's letter was the following little note on a half sheet of note paper, written by Jed Randall in pencil with an unsteady hand.
Baton Rouge, May 25th, 1863. My very dear parents, I write today that you must not feel as if I am coming home any later. I'm having good care. Orville's a splendid nurse. In short, I'm doing so well and so surely on the gain that I shall not be detained about coming home. Of course, my time is up as to duty, only to get well, and I'm trying to. Your son, J. Randall.
But that wasn't to be, as the next letter from Orville Tift reports.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana General Hospital, June 9th, 1863. Dear Father, I have some bad news for Randall's family. Jedediah is dead. He died this Tuesday afternoon, 3:30. We supposed he was getting along nicely. The doctor said his wounds were looking the best of any in the hospital. It was not the wounds that killed him, but he was so nervous and excitable his constitution was not strong enough. He was out of his head since a week ago yesterday. Last night, he seemed to be getting better, but this morning we saw that he was failing very fast. I've been up with him night and day since he was wounded. I had been out this afternoon and got a pass and transportation to New Orleans, and shall go down with the body on the first boat. I shall have the body placed in a metallic coffin and put in a vault and sent north when the weather gets cooler, as there is an order against sending them during the warm months. I wish you would break the news to his father, as I cannot do it as well as you. I will look out for his things. New Orleans, June 13th, 1863. As there was no steamer coming down from Baton Rouge yesterday, we could not keep the captain's body, so I had it buried. But I have made arrangements to have it taken up and sent north in cool weather. I shall go to Baton Rouge tonight and attend to it. Thaddeus Weeks is dead. I wish you would break the news to his family. It is giving you an unpleasant duty to inform the parents of Jedediah and Thaddeus, but you can do it so much better than myself. Lad Latham is badly wounded, but will, I think, get along. Your affectionate son, Orville Tift.
And this very interesting letter was sent to Isaac Randall about his son.
General Hospital, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, June 10th, 1863. Isaac Randall, Esquire. Since I am a stranger to you and yours, but have laid for the last 10 days right opposite your wounded son, myself wounded on the same field, and I could not help thinking yesterday, as he was peacefully leaving us, that it might be a comfort to you to know some of the circumstances of his short stay here. He was brought here on the 28th of May, seriously, but not any means considered dangerously hurt. His wound was a musket ball passing through the calf of the left leg, lodging in or near the right knee. When he first came, I noticed that he was extremely nervous about his knee. He was afraid of a stiff leg and that he would have to lose that leg. And this worry and nervousness acting on a constitution debilitated by the climate affected his brain, and that was the cause of his death. His wounds were doing well, and to the last looked well and healthy, and so the surgeons all tell me here. I have from my bed watched him with great interest, and I am convinced that it was his anxiety about his knee that brought on the nervous fever which was fatal. He had very good care and attention. His friend Tift watched over him like a brother, night and day, doing him every service one man could give to another. He did not suffer much pain and died very easily and peacefully. Please excuse this liberty from a stranger, But we, all of us here, feel so much interested in each other that we do not feel like strangers to each other's friends. By the time this reaches you, I hope to be starting from my home in Lenox, Massachusetts. If you should wish any particulars from me, please address me there. I am, sir, very truly, Lieutenant Joseph Tucker.
Joseph Tucker was in the 49th Regiment Massachusetts Infantry. He was in the hospital with Jed because his leg had been amputated after he was wounded in the knee. Tucker was a practicing lawyer before he enlisted. After the war, he went on to an impressive political career in Massachusetts, serving as lieutenant governor from 1869 to 1873. He was also a respected judge in Berkshire County. According to statistics, more Union soldiers died from swamp fevers in the siege of Port Hudson than from wounds on the battlefield. Now we're going to move to the letters of Horatio Nelson Fish Jr. Horatio was born on October 29, 1843, the fourth child and only son of Horatio Nelson Fish Sr. and Lydia Morgan Fish. The Fish family was one of the early settlers of Mystic, and Horatio Sr. had been a sea captain. Horatio Jr. was a member of the 21st Regiment Company C, Connecticut Volunteers. The unit served from August 1862 to June 1865 and was recruited largely in eastern Connecticut. It was encamped in Norwich in August 1862, mustered into the United States service September 5th, and left the state September 11th, reaching Washington, D.C. on September 13th. It was assigned to the Army of the Potomac. Horatio's letters were written to his parents, his sisters, and his nephew, Walter Beebe, his sister Harriet's son, who was the same age as Horatio. The two grew up together, and they were best friends. Walter did not go to war, but he paid someone else to fight for him, which was a common practice at the time for those who couldn't have the money to do it. Horatio's first letter is written 4 days before the Battle of Antietam, which was on September 17, 1862, known as the bloodiest day in American history. Company C, although not far from Antietam, did not take part in the battle. Horatio will lament in his later letters that the orders for his company are always late and the company is always behind.
Pleasant Valley, Maryland, Burnside Army Corps, September 13th, 1862. Dear Walter, we are now in Pleasant Valley. We left Arlington Heights 1 week ago last Tuesday for Frederick City. I think it a fine city, and the people are mostly loyal. I have not been the least unwell since I started. Some of the boys have been quite sick, but not seriously. We have got very poor doctors. I hope they will never have a chance to doctor me. Yours, Horatio. Near Washington, Virginia, November 9th, 1862. Dear parents, we have been on a steady march since you last heard from me. We are about 70 miles from the Potomac. I stood the marching first rate. All of our boys are exceedingly well. We have camped several times in the same campground the rebels left 24 hours before. I have seen several of the battlefields. There were no men lying on the ground. They were all carried off or buried. I picked up some of their shoes. I think we are bound right down to Richmond, and with such a force as there is on the road, they can't help taking it if Burnside takes command. From your affectionate son, Horatio Fish, Jr. Opposite Fredericksburg, November 25th, 1862. Sister Fan, you would be surprised to see our company or regiment. Your first question would be, where have they all gone to? We drew rations for 80 men, and but 50 are fit for duty. I will endeavor to account for some of them. James W. Fish is very sick with the typhoid fever. Ditto Charles Weaver, both in hospital. James Weaver, off duty. Isaac Wilcox, quite sick. Also John, Allen, Charles, Andrews, very sick. Sergeant Perkins, rheumatism. Albert Latham, Isaac Pendlebury, unwell. and about a dozen more off duty. William Richmond jaundice. We've had a very hard march the day we arrived opposite Fredericksburg. It rained all day, and we had to march through mud and water. Some of the boys were nearly shoeless and suffered a great deal. There has been 6 or 7 deaths in our regiment since we have been here. I'm glad to have you correct my spelling, for I know it is bad. I wish you would continue to do so. Opposite Fredericksburg, January 30th, 1863. Dear parents and sisters, we have had quite a heavy snowstorm this week, and it is very muddy. The teams can hardly move. You know nothing about mud at home. Here it is 2 and 3 feet deep. It is nearly impossible to draw an empty wagon. I want you to send me a box. Put in plenty of cheese and butter, preserves, ham, wine, everything you can think of. A good pair of boots, some woolen drawers and undershorts. Put me in a good pipe, black pepper, loaf of cake, a good pocket knife, some port, ham, a pair of buckskin gloves, dried apples, and a padlock to lock up the box. I think of you all very often, especially on Sunday. It really seemed like Sunday last Sunday when I heard the bells ring for church over in Fredericksburg. How I wish I could go to church with you and hear Elder Bronson preach. I think I should pay good attention. Love to all, Horatio. Headquarters, 3rd Brigade, 3rd Division, 9th Army Corps. Opposite Fredericksburg, February 2nd, 1863. Dear Walter, I think you must be enjoying yourself this winter attending parties. And here I am, a poor soldier deprived of all those privileges. But if I live, I will make up for those lost times. I have made up my mind that I am not going to be in Uncle Sam's service another winter. Soldiering has played out. My opinion, and others the same, is that this war is not going to last long. Godspeed it. You might form some idea of what a soldier's life is like in Virginia. It is far different from being in Washington. The boys did not complain while they were in Arlington Heights, where they had good quarters. But when they come on these long marches, there is very little to eat and no tents. That is what cools their courage. What do the papers say about the war, and what do the people say about it? I would like to know the minds of the people in general, whether they think this war will last a great while. I don't think we shall ever finish it by fighting. The rebels are too strong. Answer this soon, Horatio. Headquarters, 21st Regiment, CV, near Fortress Monroe. That's Connecticut Volunteers. Near Fortress Monroe, Virginia, February 15th, 1863. Dear Sister Fan, since I wrote you, we have had quite a move. We left camp last Saturday just at night. It was the worst travel I ever saw. At one place, we were over 4 hours going 1 mile, with empty wagons too. You would think it awful cruel to see them whip the horses. 2 died on the road. 1 of them fell down. We can neither get him up or get him out of the mud hole. So they had to run over him.
Like Jed Randall, Horatio also spotted a mystic-built ship in the waters of the Chesapeake, the Galena, the first seagoing ironclad steamer in the U.S. Navy that was built by Maxim Fishing Company.
The Galena lays off here in plain sight, also one of the monitors. I often wish I was where the Galena was built. I reckon I would be making tracks up by the old Baptist church and into the old gambled roofed house, which my boyhead knew. Give my love to all inquiring friends. Your soldier boy, Horatio. Suffolk, Virginia, March 19th, 1863. My sister Fan, we left Newport News Sunday morning in the steamer George Washington and landed at Portsmouth. It is a fine city too. Somewhat larger than New London, Sunday evening 6 of us went up to a Baptist church meeting. It is the first time I have attended regular divine services since I left home. There were a great many females present, and they were dressed very fine, and some of them was fine looking. Most of the people at heart are in favor of secession. I talked with a great many of the citizens.
Early in April 1863, Horatio received a letter from his sister Harriet telling him his father was dying, and his fervent wish was to see Horatio one last time. Horatio applied for a furlough, but was denied. On April 26, 1863, his sister Fanny sent him this. My dear brother, it is with a sad heart that I attempt to write to you. I can hardly realize it, but our dear father is dead. He breathed his last half an hour past 6 last night. The funeral is at the church tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. Write soon, in haste, Fanny.
Camped near Suffolk, Virginia, May 7th, 1863. Ever dear mother and sisters, it is with painful and depressed feelings that I sit down to write to you. I received the sad news yesterday. Oh, if I could have only been home at the time. It is impossible for me to express my feelings, and I hardly know how to write. I shall never forget my father's teachings and advice, though I passed them by in former days. I shall treasure them in years to come if God spares my life. And I trust I may be of comfort to you all. Your affectionate son and brother, Horatio. Camped near Suffolk, Virginia, May 3rd, 1863. Dear Walter, in not being allowed to see Father before he died, I was deprived of one of the greatest privileges which man could have bestowed upon me. Captain Latham retarded my furlough papers, and I shall always treasure up unkind feelings accordingly. Very few of the boys like him. How I'd like to be at home to attend to affairs.
But the war pressed on, and 6 months later, Horatio was complaining to his sister about his plight.
Norfolk, Virginia, October 26, 1863. Dear Sister Hateful, I hope you will truly atone for your neglect in writing and be more punctual in future. If you only knew how I like to receive letters from home, you would write every day. I'm afraid the young ladies of Mystic will all get married up before I get home, and I shan't have no show at all. Ever since I have been in Norfolk, I have tried to get acquainted with some of the respectable young ladies here, of which there is an overwhelming number, and fine-looking ones, too. But they are the most distant human beings I ever saw in my life. They will not so much as even look at you. P.S. That bottle of currant wine you sent me was sour. Send some more that is right this time. Your affectionate brother, Horatio. Norfolk, Virginia, November 26, 1863. Dear Sister Fan, as today is Thanksgiving, I thought it would ease my mind and thoughts by writing to you. What a contrast from 1 year ago today. Then we were in a suffering condition, nothing to eat and shivering from the cold winds. How many did I hear say, this is the last Thanksgiving I'll ever pass in the Army? And I said the same, but here we are, and I doubt not we shall pass another one here 1 year from now. When I look at our trials and troubles and our presence at Fredericksburg, and during the battle how we were spared, while others were slain, I can say, well, God has been ever with us, and I can but thank him for his watchful care. Love to all, Horatio. Newport News, January 6, 1864. Dear folks at home, considering the short rations we get here, you may imagine that I am looking anxiously for the arrival of that box. Why is it that the people of Mystic as a society never get up a box of something of that kind and send us? Knowing people are far ahead of Mystic in this line. Since we have been here at Newport News, they have received the following articles: 3 barrels of oysters, 3 of apples, half a barrel of mackerel, 1 dozen roasted turkeys, and the day after New Year's they received a large box of eatables. sweets and such, which was divided equally among them. And they were free-hearted enough to spare some for us, and just inform some of those public-spirited people of Mystic that we would like to receive something in that time. Newport News, February 11th, 1864. Sister Frank, I am still at Newport News, and I think I shall remain here a month or more. I'm driving team and at my accustomed spring work, carting manure. 7 teams of us every day draw 1 load of manure to Captain Smith's. He is a farmer just 7 miles from here. He gives us 1 load of wood for 3 of manure. The wood is for the bakery to bake bread. We have carted over 400 loads up there and have still 100 more to cart. I suppose you think that a great distance to draw wood, much more manure, and so it is. We start at 9 in the morning and return at 2 a.m. Love to all, Horatio. Washington, North Carolina, March 23rd, 1864. Dear Walter, our regiment is at present stationed in Little Washington. The people here are mostly poor and far behind the times of fashion, etc. I can tell a North Carolina woman as soon as I see her. The most striking feature in them is sharp features, paleness, and languid eyes. Really, I have not seen a decent-looking lady since I have been here. I've tried to find a good-looking one, but in vain. So I think I shall have to content myself with letters from my lady correspondents of Mystic, of which I have several, some very interesting, if not more. Washington, North Carolina, April 20th, 1864. Dear Walter, for the past 2 days, there's been a heavy cannonading at Plymouth, which is 35 miles from here, and we could hear the heavy-sized guns quite distinctly during the whole night. They sound like distant thunder. I should not be surprised if we had a brush with them. Reports say that the rebels attacked Plymouth with about 2,000 cavalry and 2,500 infantry with some cavalry with some batteries. Yesterday, we were reinforced with the 15th Regiment Connecticut and 17th Regiment Massachusetts from New Bern. They heard there that we were attacked here in Washington. We are very strongly fortified here, and the rebels must bring a very heavy force to do anything at all. We have not much fear. Sunday, April 24th, 1864. Every night we have from 15 to 20 men on each outer picket post, and for 2 mornings we have turned out at 3 a.m. and stayed in the breastworks till daybreak. But I do not think they will attack us now. If such was their intention, they would have done it before this. We have strict orders not to leave camp, and it is indeed lonesome here. Portsmouth, Virginia, May 7th, 1864. Dear Sister Fan, we are camped in the outskirts of Portsmouth and doing nothing but camp duty. We were too late for the Battle of Antietam and have been behind everything ever since, and I don't know as I'm very sorry. Our regiment is not spitting for a fight as most troops are, yet I think if it were where it was, we should do our share. The 21st is not much behind when they are ordered, but the orders are all behind.
That all changed on May 16th, 1864, when the 21st found itself in the middle of the Battle of Drury's Bluff.
Camp 4 miles from Bermuda Hundred, within the line of fortification extending from the Appomattox to the James Rivers, May 20th, 1864. Dear Sister Frank, our regiment went into the line of battle on the night of the 15th. We had no breastworks except for a few decayed logs thrown together about 3 feet high. During the night, we had a very strong line of skirmishers out, and some of them were within 10 rods of Fort Johnson. Every regiment sent out 2 companies which stayed out all night. The whole line turned out 3 different times, as the advanced skirmishers were likely to be overpowered. But they held their ground till morning. It was so foggy, we could not see more than 4 rods from us, and we were in the thick of swamps. Our whole regiment stood to the last, and our company stood till the last of the regiment had retreated. If we had went when the regiment did, we should not have lost a man. Cyrus Pease was the first hit and killed instantly. The rest was all done in less than a moment's time. William Mulkey was killed, Orrin Barker wounded and left on the field, Edwin Smith and Frank Mayo missing. We supposed they were wounded and taken prisoner. Charles Andrews was wounded in the arm, and it has been amputated about the elbow. James McGrath, also in the arm. Frank Brayton, a ball scratched his neck and cut off part of his ear. A buckshot or fragment of a shell scratched me just below the eye while I was laying behind a log at the same time Pease was hit. The mark is hardly worth speaking of, although I believe I am listed among the wounded. Our regiment lost 100, killed, missing, or wounded. Captain Shepard of Company K had his leg amputated. Captain Stanton is wounded in the arm. Our second lieutenant, C.S. Dutton, wounded in the leg. Captain Latham behaved very well during the fight. He had some liquor down, which made him quite brave, and he kept us at the front longer than he ought in consequence of it. We are quite strongly fortified from here to the river to the other river. The Rebs are quite plenty outside and fire upon us occasionally. Tonight and today, they are firing very lively. We still hold our own and can against a large force. I wrote a letter to Pease's folks informing them of his death. I miss him very much as he was my tent mate. I shall be glad when this campaign is over, and I'm doubtful of its success too. Tell Mother not to worry about me as God will watch over me. I have hope beyond the grave invaluable. Love to all, Horatio.
On May 19, 1864, the 21st Regiment returned to White House Landing and then Cold Harbor, Virginia, where they participated in that battle.
18 miles from White House Landing, the battlefield, June 3rd, 1864. Dear Sister Frank, through God's kind providence, I am still spared through another day of hard fighting. We landed at White House on the 1st at noon. Today at daylight, we passed outside the breastworks and formed a line of battle. There was 4 lines deep. We were the second. At about 6 a.m., we fixed bayonets for a charge and moved forward. We had gone but a short distance when we encountered the Rebs in force and exchanged several volleys of musketry. The first line charged upon their outer works and captured them, and we followed them in support. The Rebs poured heavy volleys into us and wounded many of our regiment, among whom was William Johnson, right side of me. Joshua Fish and myself carried him to the rear. It is doubtful whether he lives, as a ball lodged in his right side. He is in the field hospital now and very quiet. I think if he had good nursing, he would survive. The suffering of these men is beyond imagination. You can form no idea of it. And they're coming in all the time. While I've been writing these few lines, no less than a dozen fresh ones have come into the hospital. But the fighting has subsided and the 21st have been drawn inside the breastworks. I know you are anxious about me, but do not look on the dark side. If God takes me away, I trust it will be well with me, or if I am wounded, this healing confidence will not forsake me. Love to all. Horatio.
After the evacuation of Cold Harbor, the Army swung around in front of Petersburg, Virginia.
In the rifle pits near Richmond, Virginia, June 10th, 1864. Dear Walter, it is the hardest times we have ever seen yet. Since we landed at Bermuda 100, 20 men have left our company, either killed or wounded. And now our regiment musters hardly 250 men for duty. The regiment have been in the rifle pits and under fire ever since we have been here, 7 days. June 27th, 1864. Dear Sister Frank, Don't you think the great victory many were expecting, your July 4th, will be a failure? I do. And if that victory is achieved this fall, it will be more than I expect. If some of those persons who are so confident of success and so easily could be out here and see how hard we worked and how little we gained, and our almost invincible foes, they would not wonder our slow progress. The papers tell how well our men are provided for, that they are in such excellent spirits and anxious to encounter the enemy. If we were in that condition, well, we might conquer, but we are not. One half of our regiment are sick and unfit for any duty whatsoever, and yet most of them are obliged to do duty. A sick man gets no sympathy in the field. It is the same in all the other regiments as in ours. If our men only had the life and vigor which a well man has at home, a victory would be easy. Already I have lost 25 pounds from my usual weight. A thought of those spring vegetables and fruits nearly makes me homesick. But I should not know how to appreciate the joys and comforts of home if I did not see some of life's hardships. And this is a long apprenticeship for it. This from your brother, H.N. Fish.
Horatio was wounded in the arm at Petersburg, Virginia on July 18, 1864, and taken to Hampton Hospital. His mother received a letter from the U.S. Christian Commission telling her that the doctors were hopeful for a complete recovery, and Horatio was expected to be sent north on the next hospital transport and then furloughed to go home. Horatio sent this letter to his sister Fanny on July 21st.
The doctor says my arm will be 2 months in healing. He is from Connecticut. He told the nurses to take extra care of me. This is a good, healthy hospital with a good sea breeze. The air is clean and pure. Your affectionate brother, Horatio N. Fish.
Horatio took a turn for the worse not long after writing that letter, and he died on August 21st. He was 8 days short of his 21st birthday. Both Jed and Horatio are buried in Lower Mystic Cemetery. In 1883, Mystic erected a soldiers' monument, which is right out here, at East Main and Broadway, dedicated to the brave sons of Mystic who gave their lives for their country in the War of the Rebellion, 1861 to 1865. The 4 sides of the monument list key battles in the war, including Drury's Bluff, where Horatio fought, and Port Hudson, where Jed was wounded. Before I take any questions if you have any, I just want to tell you the good news that Simeon Fish and Orville Tift survived the war, and they came home to Mystic. Simeon was the son of Nathan G. Fish, who was one of the owners of Maxon and Fish Company, which built the Galena, which was the ship that Horatio saw off the Chesapeake. And so Simeon came home, he worked in his father's business, but he had a political career here in Groton. He was actually the first selectman of Groton when he died in 1906. Orville came home, and in 1870 he married one of the daughters of the Mallorys, and they moved to Galveston, Texas. But Orville's older brother Henry also went south, and he founded the town of Tifton, Georgia. And he must have said to Orville, hey, come on over, I founded a town. So Orville spent the last 35 years of his life as the postmaster of Tifton, Georgia. But he died here in Mystic. He was up visiting his sister at her house on High Street, and he died there in 1909. And he and his wife were buried in Elm Grove. So is Henry Tifton, who founded Tifton, Georgia. He came back here to Elm Grove to be buried. And that's the end. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yes, I'm just wondering Jed Randall's education level, because his letters are so beautifully written.
Yeah. I don't actually know where he went to school. That's what struck me in the letters is, but I think it might be just the difference between a 27-year-old and a 19-year-old. I mean, Horatio, you can tell he's a kid. Yeah.
How did these communications translate the letters back and forth?
I guess by boat. I don't know. That's what I would think, that there are probably boats that are coming.
They had trains moving up and down as well.
Yeah,
You know where the Camp Russell and Knowledge was?
no, I probably could look it up, but that wasn't something I thought to do. I'll have to look that up and find out. Yes,
Where did the letters come from?
okay, so Horatio's letters were a gift to the society back in 1977. He grew up at 148 High Street, which is just a couple of doors up from the church. And that house was in the Fish family for 150 years. And the last Fish family member to live there was Juliet Haley, and she died in 1977. And all of these letters were in the attic. All the letters from him, and his sister Julia was married to George Gates, who was a sea captain. All of the letters between the two of them we have, and they all came to the society. And Betsy, I don't know, where did we get Jeds? Where did they come from?
They were in a library in Arizona. So Jed's younger brother had moved out to Arizona. He's a shoe salesman, and he brought handwritten transcriptions of the letters that Jed had sent home, and they were in Arizona for 80 years and ended up here.
So that's where we got those. Yes.
You mentioned margaritas. Who was it a bar or?
Oh, it was a restaurant. It just closed.
Oh, right,
It's over
right.
Factory Square.
But you mentioned it,
Historically, what was it?
historically.
Historically, what was margaritas?
Jed's father.
machinery.
Yes.
That was
Standard machinery.
Yeah.
That was
it
the building
It was Standard
where-
Machine Shop.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, that was
okay.
across the street. And then David Standard moved into the, where it is now.
Big brick factory
Right.
that's on Water Street. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and it's had different lives since then. Yes. So, yeah, the Randalls pretty much owned that whole area around Water Street.
Mr. Wheeler owned Standard Machinery. Jack Wheeler, John Wheeler.
Oh, yeah, in the 20th century.
The Fish family on River Road, is that relationship?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know how they're related. Everybody who is a fish
Is all related.
is all related. They're all descended from John Fish, who was the original fish to come and get property here. They might be fourth, fifth, sixth cousins, but they're all
A
related.
lot of land there between
Yeah.
the street
And where did you say that statue is? You were pointing right here?
It's right out, if you go out this door and walk up to the end of the street, it's right in the middle of the road. Right out here. Yeah, most people don't even realize that that's the statue,
Yeah.
but that's a Civil
I'll
War
have to go read it.
statue, yeah.
Take my car.
Yeah, and it says Drury's Bluff on one side, Port Hudson, and then it says Antietam and Gettysburg. I think they just,
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was all just one person.
no,
Okay. I need to read it then.
that it? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow.